Okay, now question number 3. Here we have Michael Carrick is a dish manufacturer in need of an aggregate plan for July through December, and the company has gathered the following data. So here we have these tables. The first one is about the cost, the data about the cost. We have holding cost, subcontracting, regular time labor, and then overtime labor, hiring costs, and layoff costs. And then we have other data about current workforce, labor hour per days, and then work days per month, beginning inventory, and ending inventory. And please note that there is no holding cost for June. And then here we have the data for month and the demand for each month, okay, from July to December. Here are the data that given from the problem. We write down here to make it easier for us to calculate. Okay, this is the data for the cost, and then the other data, and then this is the demand for each month. Okay, it's just the same with this one. And I guess it's better for us to calculate for the labor hour per month, which means the total working hours of labor in a month, and also calculate for production per labor per month, which means how many days a labor could make in a month. Okay, so first we have to calculate labor hour per month. Okay, the total working hours of a labor in a month. We get it by multiplying the regular labor hour per day times how many days in a month that they are working. Okay, so in a month they are working 20 days, and in a day they are working 8 hours. So in a month they are working 160 hours. Okay, so it's the working hour per labor. And then the next one is production labor per month. Production per labor per month, we get it by dividing this number, okay, labor hour per month divided by labor hour per days, okay, which is 50 days. Okay, so the logic is one worker, they're working 160 hours in a month, while one dish need 4 hours to be made. So to get to know how many days a labor could make in a month, just divide the total hours a worker worked in a month, and then divide it by this one, labor hour per days. Okay, so we have the data here, and then the question is, what will each of the two following strategies cost? Which one do you choose and why? So here we have two plans, plan A and plan B. Plan A, vary the work first so that production meets demand. So the number of production equals to the demand, while plan B is vary over time only and use a constant workforce of 8. So it means that the production level remain the same or stable from July till December. Okay, so first we have to calculate for the cost for plan A. We have to vary the work first. So here we make the table like this. Okay, for month and the demand, the data is already given. And then next we have to add more columns for unit required, inventory, labor hour, workers needed, hiring, layoff, worker, and production. So here from June, we already have inventory as much as 150 units. And then the current worker from June is 8 workers. So Next, we calculate starting from July. So actually we have demand for July is 400 units, and the first one, we have to fill this unit required column. How many units that we actually have to produce? Okay, we get it by reducing the demand minus the inventory that we have from previous month, which is June, and we have 150 units. So unit required for us to be met or to produce is 400 minus 150 units, and it's equal to 250 units. And then we skip the inventory, we fill it later. We have to fill the labor hour first. So labor hour is how many hours that we have to take to make 250 units. So actually one dish, it needs 4 hours to be met, right? While here we have to produce as much as 250 units. So the total labor hour is this number, the unit required, times the labor hour per dish. So it becomes 100 hours. And next we fill the workers needed. So this is like how many workers that we need to produce 250 units this, or to work as much as 1000 hours. Okay, so we get it by dividing the labor hour, okay, by the labor hour per month. Okay, because this is the total hours that we have to take to make 250 units. While one labor, they only work in a month up to 160 hours. So to get to know how many workers needed, we have to divide the total hours needed for us to produce, divided by labor work in a month, okay, in hours. So 100 divided by 1000 divided by 160 units. Okay, and then here we have to decide, we have to hire or lay off a worker, some workers. Okay, so here actually we only have 6.25 workers, but since it's workers is a person, and it couldn't be in a decimal nominal, so we just rounded it down. So we only have 6 workers needed, okay, since 0.25 is below 0.50 or below half, so we just rounded it down. And but currently we already have 8 workers, and now in July we actually only need 6 workers, so we have to reduce the number of workers, right? And to reduce, we have to lay off, not to hire, and we have to lay off as much as the difference between the number of workers from the previous month, and it reduced by the workers needed at the current month. So since 8 minus 6 is 2. Okay, so worker that we have in July is 6, right? Because we have 8 workers from June, and then we lay off 2 of them on July. So on July we only have 6 workers. And then for the production, the number of production, total of production for July is, we only have to multiply the number of workers that we have multiplied by this one, okay, the production per labor per month. Okay, so this means one laborer could produce 40 discs in a month, while in July we have 6 workers. So the total production that we made in July is 6 workers times 40 discs. Okay, 240 units. And then after we fill the production here, we move to the inventory column. So basically inventory is the difference between the unit required and the production. But the number is not absolute, so you have to reduce the number of production minus the unit required. So actually we only produce as much as 240 units, while the unit required is 250 units. So the inventory dropped below 0, which is 240 minus 250 equals to minus 10, right? Okay, we're done for July, and then next we're doing for August. The demand is 500, okay, and then the unit required to produce in August is the actual demand minus the inventory. But the inventory from July, the nominal is minus, okay, it's minus 10. So the unit required becomes 500 minus 10. So it becomes 510 units. And then we fill the inventory later. We have to fill the labor hour first. The total labor hour that we have to take for making 510 unit this is by calculating or multiplying the total unit required by this one, okay, 4 hours. So because one disc needs 4 hours to be made, while we have to produce 510 units, so we have to multiply 510 units multiplied by 4 hours. Okay, so 2040 hours is the labor hours that we need to produce the unit required. And how many workers that we need to produce? We get it by dividing the total labor hour that we need to produce divided by labor hour per month, okay? A worker, how long the worker works in a month. So this one divided by 160 hours. Okay, and we get 12.75. And then since the decimal is 0.75 and it's above the 0.5, above the half, so we have to round it up. So we assume that workers needed is 13, okay, while from July we only have 6 workers, and in August we need 13 workers, so we have to add more worker, right, by hiring more workers, okay? And how much we hire is the difference between the worker from July and the workers needed in August. So 13 minus 6 is 7, right? Okay, and then so the worker that we have on August is 13, and then the production is the number of worker that we have multiplied the production per labor per month. Okay, we have 520 units, while the demand is only 500. The unit required is only 510 units. So the production is excess, right, by 10 units. So it becomes our inventory. Okay, next for September, the demand is 550 units. The unit required is the demand minus the inventory. So it becomes 540 units. And then for the labor hour, we get it by multiplying the unit required, okay, multiplied by the labor hour per day, 4 hours. And then for the workers needed, labor hour divided by labor hour per month. And then workers needed is 13.50, but since it's equals to half, so we just rounded it up, so it becomes 14. So actually the workers needed is 14 workers, while from August we only have 13 workers, so we have to hire one more worker, okay. So the workers that we have on September is 14, and the total production is 14, the number of workers multiplied by the production per labor per month. Okay, so this is the total production for September, while the unit required is only 540 units. So the excess production becomes our inventory. And then just repeat this step, okay, for October, November, and December. Unit required, demand minus inventory, and then labor hour, unit required times 4 hours. For workers needed, the labor hours divided by 160 hours, and workers needed is 17, while the workers that we have from September is 14, so we have to hire more workers, as much as 3 workers. And then the workers that we have on October becomes 17, and the production is 17, okay, times 40 days, and the inventory becomes 0, right, because the production equals to the unit required. And then for November, unit required is the demand minus the inventory, since we have no inventory, so the unit required is equal to the demand. And then for the labor hour, the unit required times 4 hours, and then workers needed is labor hour divided by 160 units. And then we have to hire more workers, right, since the workers needed is increasing. We hire 3 more workers, and then the worker that we have is 20, and then the production is 20 times 40 days. Okay, so the production is equal to the unit required, so we have no inventory on November. And then last one, December, unit required is 700, and then the labor hour is the unit required times 4 hours, okay, and then workers needed is 2,800 divided by 160 hours. Okay, so this is 17.5, so it's actually and a half, so we just rounded it up. So we assume that the workers that we need on December is 18 workers, while from November we have 20 workers, so we have to lay off 2 workers. It's supposed to be 2, okay. And then so the total worker that we have is 18, and then the production is 18 times 40 days, right? And then it becomes, the production is 720 units while the unit required is only 700, so we have inventory here, okay, as much as 20 units. And now we're done filling the columns, and now we sum all of them, each column. Okay, so for calculating the total cost, we have to calculate the cost for inventory or holding cost, and then the cost for hiring workers or hiring costs, and then layoff costs for layoffing workers, and then the regular labor costs. Actually, for calculating regular labor costs, we could use the number of workers or using the production. But now let's use the total of workers first. Okay, maybe we could start from calculating the holding cost or inventory cost. So here the total of inventory that we have from July until December is 50 units. So 50 units multiplied by the cost of inventory atau or holding cost, which is $8. So 50 times 8, okay. And then for hiring, total of hiring multiplied with the hiring cost, $40. And then layoff, total of layoff multiplied by the cost of layoff, $80. And then last one, the regular labor cost. If we're using the number of workers that we use from July until December, so the calculation becomes total of workers, okay, and then multiplied by the labor hour per month, and then multiplied with the regular labor time cost, okay. So the logic is we're using 88 workers, while per worker they are working 160 hours, and per hour the payment is $12. So we have to calculate the cost per hour, labor cost per hour, and then the labor hour per month, and then the total of workers. Okay, so this is the cost for regular labor cost. Maybe let's give it a try if we are using the production instead. So for regular labor cost, we could use number of workers or the production. Okay, we have calculated for if we are using the number of workers that we use. So let's give it a try. What if we use number of production? But at the end, the result would be the same. Okay. I just want to give you option though. So if we are using production, the total of production from July until December is 3,520 units, and the calculation becomes total of production. Okay, so this is the number of this that we made from July until December, and then multiplied with 4 hours, because each dish it takes 4 hours to be made, and then oh sorry, so this one, total of units times labor hour per days, because each unit takes 4 hours to be made, and then the cost per hour, okay, the cost of labor per hour. So let's see. Okay, so the number or the cost is the same, right? Whether you want to use worker or production, it's okay. The difference is the multiplier, okay? So I'll just give it notes. Yeah, like that. Okay, and then we already have the total cost for holding cost, hiring cost, layoff cost, and regular labor cost. Now we calculate for the total cost if we are using plan A. So we just add all of them, and the total is $170,000. Okay, now we're calculating for the cost if we are using plan B, or if the level of workers is 8 workers from July until December. So it means that the production rate is remain the same from July until December. Each worker could produce as much as 40 days a month. So if we have 8 workers, okay, the total production would be 8 workers times 40 days, okay, and it's 320 units, and until December it's the same, okay, the number of production. Okay, now we have to determine the overtime and the inventory. The problem stated that we have inventory from June as much as 150 units, and the next month, which is July, we have demand as much as 400 units, while we only produce 320 units. So the production is like, there's shortage, and to cover the shortage we could use the inventory that we have from previous month, and the shortage is 80, right, while we have inventory as much as 150 units. So there's still inventory left in July as much as 150 units minus 80, so it's 70. Okay, so the production for July, we get it by using our production and using the 80 units from inventory, and we don't have to do overtime on July. And then move to August. The demand is 500 units, while our production is remain the same. So it means there is shortage as well, right? And we only have 70 units in our inventory. So if we are adding the number of production with the inventory from previous month, it's only 390 units, right? So we're still lack of 110 units, right? And we get it by doing overtime. So basically overtime we get it by the demand minus production minus inventory, okay? And then because we use all of the inventory that we have, the inventory now is 0. Now move to September, the demand is 550 units while the production is still the same, and there is a shortage. So the shortage is the difference between the demand and the production, and it's 230 units. And since we don't have any inventory, so we have to do overtime as much as the shortage. Okay. And then in October, the demand is keep increasing, so there's still shortage, and the difference is 380 units. Okay, the difference between demand and production, and we have no inventory, so we cover the shortage with doing overtime. And then same with November, the shortage we're doing it by overtime to cover. And then last one is December, the case is the same, still the same. So to cover the shortage, the only option is just to do overtime. Okay, now we're done filling the production and then overtime, then inventory. Now we have to sum all of them. Okay. Okay, now after we sum all of them, the production, overtime, and then the inventory, now we could count for the total cost. So the total cost consists of the regular labor cost, okay, or the production here, because we don't have the number of workers, or the workers is still the same, right? And then overtime, total overtime, and then the holding cost or inventory cost. And for regular labor cost, we could use the total of production here. Okay, so it's the calculation becomes the total of production times 4 hours, okay, times $12 per hour. Okay, because we have to produce 1920 units dish, while each dish takes 4 hours to be made, and the cost per hour, okay, of the worker is $12. So the regular labor cost is this one. Okay, next for the overtime cost, total overtime times the overtime cost, okay, which is $18. And then last one is the inventory cost is the total inventory times the inventory cost or holding cost, $8 per dish per month. Okay, now we already have all of the costs, and now we have to sum all of them to get the total cost for plan B. So the total cost is 206,000. And now which one we should choose is by comparing the total cost between plan A and plan B. Okay, this is the total cost for plan B, while the total cost for plan A is only 170,000. So it's better for us if we use the plan A as our production strategy. Okay, we're done.